Imagine sitting at home when, without warning, your front door is kicked in by a SWAT team, guns drawn, shouting orders because someone made a false 911 call in your name. This isn't a bad dream, it's swatting, a dangerous hoax that misuses emergency resources and has led to real injuries, even deaths. Today, we're diving into the rise of swatting, the impact on first responders, and what's being done to stop it. This is Lifeline. Hello and welcome back to Lifeline 911 Podcast. I am your co-host Gary, and with me as always, of course, is your host Erica.
Hi.
Today we're going to be diving into the world of swatting. You've probably seen news reports and stories on this lately where people will make false 911 calls saying that something horrific has happened, typically like something along the lines of like, I just killed my whole family and I've got somebody hostage and I'm not coming out. And that type of call is responded to by police to try and, help potential victims by sending the special weapons and tactics units out there to try and uh, detain the suspect and save any lives that can be done. But these are all made falsely, basically, and it is a huge waste of time, and even more importantly, than that it is also very dangerous. Yeah, they kind of started swatting a number of years ago. Usually, you'd see it sort of on like people that were playing video games online. They would think it'd be funny to swat their I guess, competition. And so they'd be playing video games online, and then all of a sudden the door gets kicked in, and SWAT team comes by and tackles the guy to the ground while he's streaming. But it's also done because, people might have a sort of vendetta against other people. There's all types of reasons, but it's a very dangerous practice.
Yeah. And not only well, sure, it's dangerous, and while it's terrible to take up the emergency resources. I think that's secondary to the real life danger that can happen there. Because depending on what's been told to law enforcement, like you said, they will break down the door if they really deem or believe that if there's imminent danger to someone on the other side. They go in, and God only knows what can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I truly don't understand what would make a thinking human being do this. Even if you did have some vendetta against someone, I cannot imagine there being humor in it. I don't see it.
Well, it's part of. Sometimes it can be done out of, pure trollery. People online trying to mess with other people. Sometimes it can be done because they don't like something the person said or did, and basically, generally, what happens is people will use a voice over IP VoIP, where you can change your
Mhm.
address. It's just an online phone, basically. And so you can
Yeah.
put it to whatever address you want. And then you make a call to 911. The uh, automatic location information, the alley, will then send it to whatever PSAP. Uh,
It's
911,
closest.
yeah. And then they just say, hey, here's the story. Like, I got my whole family hostage. I'm going to blow their brains out. And there's nothing you can do to
Hmm.
stop me, copper.
Yeah.
A- yeah. Um,
Wow.
and I've been on duty while that's happened a few times. I think three or four that I can kind of just recall off the top of my head. And
Yeah.
uh, some people are better actors at it than others. But especially like when it first started and it was really new and nobody had ever heard of it before. Of course, you're going to go out there and treat it really seriously, and you treat it seriously
Sure.
every time. But we do have several locations in town that have like notes on them saying, "Hey, this person's been swatted 25 times." Eh,
It's
be
awful.
aware of that when you go out there to that kind of call. So, yeah, as you said, the use of resources is not the main problem. It's the uh, danger to, you know, everybody involved in that.
Yeah, and not just, the people who are being swatted, but, depending on, and leave it to me to go dark, but, you know, what if the person on the other end of this swatting call is anti-police,
Mm-hmm.
anti-government, anti-authority in any way, and they respond not by saying, "Oh my God, I have no idea what is going up. What's happening. I'm coming out hands up, empty, the whole nine, totally cooperative." They may be of a different sort.
Yes.
And not only is it that the officers and first responders could hurt them, but they could hurt us.
Yeah. I mean, you could end up with an entire family killed and half a squad of SWAT officers just gunned down, all because of a feud or somebody thought it would be funny to see.
But
It's really a dangerous situation.
it is. And I don't recall when it was, of course. I think I was still working as a dispatcher, so that would make it about what, maybe 4 years or so ago in my that I can think back. That's the soonest that I can recall really understanding what it looks like for something to be a swatting call,
Hmm.
where it has all of the elements. I mean, it is as bad can get. Like you said, I've killed everybody in my, I've killed the dog and two other people, and I'm holding two more hostage, and you're not taking me alive, and all the things. And so it's gotten to the point where you kind of look at these calls and you go, huh, this is almost too neat.
Yeah, it's almost too extreme to be real.
Yes. But the danger there is, what if it's not?
Exactly. That's why you always have
And
to
then you
treat every call as possibly legit.
and I would not want to be the officers having to put these pieces together to determine whether or not they really believe it is a swatting call or not.
Hmm.
Because look how much time they have to spend analyzing everything that's in front of them to make that determination. And I get that it's probably not going to just be one patrol officer making that call. It's several, all of their experience, all of their experience, expertise, years and knowledge on the job, along with their sergeant and whoever else, all these minds coming together to look at this thing from all the different angles to decide, no, we're not going to break down the door. We really don't think this is credible.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, they still have the potential to be wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Oh,
the chance of it turning into something dangerous for people is really really high because
just horrible.
yeah, and just even though like it's secondary, the amount of resources that are wasted on that because you've got not only the 911 line that you tied up for however long your call was, if you're the person doing
True.
the swatting,
Yeah.
you've also got the you know probably going to have to open up a new channel, so you're going to need a dispatcher for that. You're going to tie up dozens of units and dozens more uh, of the SWAT guys. So,
Yeah.
and and they'll be out there for possibly hours. And
While they're trying to determine whether this is a thing or not, because like you said, they have to take it seriously.
hmm
They can't just blow it off. And it takes time to come to that conclusion.
yeah, and not only that, but they won't be able to respond to other calls. So
Mhm.
your swatting call, like if you call in a false swatting call because you think it'd be funny, well, what's not funny is the girl getting raped on the other side of the city did
Yeah.
not get responded to because
Yeah.
all the resources were at
Or
one
not as
spot.
fast, and not as fast as it could be,
Yeah.
or, you know, it bogs down the system, and there's absolutely nothing funny about it. And it to me, and I know this may not seem like it's relevant, but it almost makes me sad that technology plays a part in this. Because
Mm-hmm.
while technology is great, it's the technology to have a phone anywhere over the internet and it's convenient. You're not stuck to a landline or even a cell phone. And because either, all of those have their drawbacks, but with that same technology comes the misuse of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now you have all of these resources. I feel bad for the 911 operator who doesn't know how to recognize a swatting call, but how do you recognize a swatting call? Can you train to that?
Well, I don't know if
Should
you.
you train to
Yeah.
it?
Again, I think it's always best to when as a law enforcement, or medical or fire, if somebody calls something in, treat it as legit until you can prove it's not legit, because
Yeah.
the amount of not only maybe liability but um, guilt you'd have on yourself if you got that wrong would be
Agreed.
would be terrible.
So, and
So,
I would thinking to myself, what would I tell a baby call taker that was quote unquote taken in by a swatting call? I would probably say you weren't taken in, you were doing your job.
hmm yeah, but I mean that's still going to have the effects of, dumping into that baby call taker all that adrenaline, all that stress, all that
Hmm.
trauma, and then that's going to make the red light for mind base start blinking, and they're going to have to go visit the psychiatrist.
Nice.
But yeah,
Nice.
it's going to put a lot of stress on them, completely unnecessarily so,
Yeah.
and
A job, because a job has enough stress and it's or it comes about organically, naturally because of the nature of the job. And
hmm
then you have this foolishness.
yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of them are probably done as pranks or practical jokes, but it's really not good. It's taking it too far, even for the internet.
Yeah. But is there what can be done?
Well, of
I
course,
don't, are you aware of any legislation? I'm
well,
not.
of course, making a false report is a crime, and you know,
True.
uh, and like using resources like that is a crime as well, and so the person doing it would have to pay uh, for all that, you know, the cost of all that. But actually finding the person can be quite difficult because today you've got VPNs, which are basically they say you're somewhere else than you are
Hmm.
by
Hmm.
some magic. I don't know how they work, but and then on top of that, you also add like a VoIP, so
Yeah.
it's saying you're somewhere else that you're not, but you're not even there. So like they're hard to
It,
track down.
uh, I don't, I don't like the feeling of, in a sense, helplessness that comes along with knowing that these can just strike randomly and there's very little up to date anyway that I'm aware of that can be done to stop them.
Yeah, and what also really grinds my gears is that they're not only wasting the resources that go out there to these calls, but they're using the police department as part of their prank. Um,
Mhm.
and you know, even though like it would be a terrible tragedy if that happened and somebody got killed because of it,
Mhm.
the the police department would probably be in a pretty negative light with the community. Um,
Which it through no fault of their own
right.
in this case.
Yeah. And it's and even if nobody gets hurt, it's still you're you know messing with somebody by and using the police to do that. It's just
Yeah,
really fundamentally aggravating to me, I suppose.
sure. Well, it's not like we don't have enough of that going on in just, I don't know, custody situations where people attempt to use the police to do their dirty work or get back at an ex or whatever, mama,
Mm-hmm.
baby, daddy, drama stuff. It's, how many times as supervisors do we have to take that escalated call from the person who wants to know why we're not sending the police over to do XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to explain to them that's not what we do. There has to be a credible reason, a credible threat to cause us to react a certain way. And then to know that there are people out there that know how to say the trigger words, which are actually not really trigger. You just, get us to believe that there's danger
Yeah.
and we're going to respond in kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's incredibly frustrating, and like you can't really, as you said, train against that because you have to treat every call as if it's real. Um,
I, yeah, because I would not want to be sitting across from as a CTO or supervisor giving a QA feedback or even in a training environment saying, here, what are some ways we can recognize a swatting call?
yeah.
Talk about setting that person up for, in my opinion, disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Because what if they get it wrong?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, like, because you could like when they come in, you now that we've experienced them quite a bit, you kind of have an intuition, like a gut feeling, like this is too convenient. It's too Hollywoody,
Yeah.
to to
It's too
probably
doom
be
and
real.
gloom. It's too apocalyptic. It's got all of, it reminds me of when you're watching like a police show or a detective show and they say it's just it's uncommon for all of the evidence to point to this one person. It's almost like somebody put it in a package and tied it up for us with a nice bow and said, "Here you go."
Yeah.
When it's like that, it makes you go, there's something about this that's just a little too neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's you can't quite put your finger on it, and it
Hmm.
it can't change how you process the situation. But you're just like, this is something's off on this. But
The
like,
whole time, you're putting the call in, you're like, this is horse pucky.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You know it. You
Mm-hmm.
can feel it in your bones. You know it's just there's something about this is just wrong. I don't, oh, and I hate to repeat half of what I'm being told, but what other choice do I have?
Mm-hmm.
None. You enter the call based on what you're told. Dispatcher, you dispatch the call and you don't say, I think this is a swatting call because it's not our call to make
Yeah,
as civilians. We don't make that call. I put that out there because I've kind of heard
heard that before.
potential, well, potential, possibly. I'm like, should you be saying that?
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah,
no.
yeah. And then like I feel like bad for like, especially like if it happens like towards the end of somebody's shift, like like the call taker that heard all of that, um,
Hmm.
and has to go home and wondering like how is this going to resolve. And they may show it on the news like, hey, there was a swatting call at this and this address, and they could be like, okay, everybody's fine. But it's
Yeah.
still just that, because these calls, like they'll stick with you, especially ones that are usually set up as the swatting calls are, because they're scripted to be memorable, I suppose.
Oh, exactly. Oh, that's a really good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Scripted to be memorable. But again, it goes back to that everything is just, I mean, everything that could possibly be wrong in this call is wrong in this call.
Mm-hmm.
There's 25 babies all being held, at gunpoint, and, you know,
Yeah.
nobody has on any clothes and they're all on crack and they're all, just heap it on as high and ugly as you can get it. But yet again, actually, you know what? I take that back. I wonder if in your experience you could, now obviously you have to enter the call and you have to say what's told to you,
Mm-hmm.
but could your experience, say you are an experienced 911 operator, is there something that you might could put in the call that just says the caller's tone is such and such? They sound really, really calm.
Yeah.
They don't sound upset at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should use your logic and reason when you're taking calls. But again, like some people, different people react differently under crisis circumstances. Like you might have
Mhm.
somebody who is just in a minor fender bender and they're just bawling their eyes out, and you might have a mom who found their infant dead who's just stone cold because like they just emotionally can't process it. So
They're in
and
shock.
yeah, and then like you've also got like if you had asked me what year is it 2025, if you'd asked me 9 years ago, like if somebody called and said, "Hey, there's a tripwire set up in this neighborhood that's rigged to an explosive. Do you think that's a real thing?" I'd have been like, "This is a fake call.
Absolutely
Very, very likely a
not.
fake call."
Yeah,
But
but it wasn't.
it, the one time it wasn't. It wasn't. That's a whole other episode,
Oh,
though.
the
But
bombing.
yeah, so like
Yeah.
swatting calls, um, they're they're tough because you have to treat them as real, but you kind of know something's amiss, and that's was when it's incumbent upon the 911 operator to listen and try and get as much information as they can, the tone, the voice, pick up on any subtle
Hmm.
cues. Do they hear laughing in the
Yep.
background?
Yes, yes. That's where your interview skills and all of the training that you've gotten up to this point is it all comes together in when you get calls like this, whether they be legit or we think they may be swatting calls.
Hmm.
This, I think, is why it's important for us, I'm not saying that we all do this because we don't, but to run scenarios in your head. What would I do? How
Hmm.
would I process call a call like ABC? Because that's when you'll have done, you will have deposited a little bit of training into your day, at least, several times a week or several times a month, so that when you have a call like that, you are able to move through it and listen for those subtle cues
Hmm.
because you're not so hung up on what questions to ask. You've got the basics and fundamentals down. So now you can trug along but now you can pay attention to, do I hear sniggling in the background? Is
Yeah.
there a TV I hear? What is that? And cues about the person's tone. And I get you're 100% right. It could be, you know, one person responds to that trauma differently, but usually there's something in that call
Hmm.
that has got the hair on the back of your neck standing up or your spidey senses going, either this is legit or something is way, way off.
Hmm. I remember when I was a, a baby call taker just started. I think it was around Halloween. We got a call. I got a call from a payphone. For those of you who don't know payphone, they used to have phones where you put a quarter in and you could dial phone numbers. Um, Been a minute. Anyway,
Wow.
so I was on night shift. Got a call from this.
I don't think there are any more of those anywhere, are you?
I believe they have them at the airport. I think they're required to for TDD purposes. Um,
Interesting.
but anyway, so I got a, it was
Carry
how
on.
yeah
Sorry, my bad.
it was like Friday night on night shift, and I got a call and it was like there's this guy, he's got a machine gun and he's shooting at us, and then all of a sudden I hear pop 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 pop, pop like just like 30 rounds go off. So I'm like putting the call in, I'm like, wow, this is really exciting and terrible. Um,
Right.
so a bunch of the cops head out there, and they find the payphone, and inside of it they find the remnants of a line of black cats, the fireworks, and that sounds exactly like a gun does on a payphone.
Wow.
So that was not really swatting, but that's what you had back in the day for that. Um, and
It was prank.
it was a prank call, and
It's awful.
yeah, I mean, you calling somebody and say a random person being like, "Hey, is your refrigerator running?" That's a level of prank that is harmless. So it might be
I'm
annoying.
good.
Yeah.
Give me back the days of the 911 call, the cell phones that don't have service and some 2-year-old has it and they're just, playing in the background. And while it might be annoying, no one's going to die or
Yeah.
potentially die. And yes, they may keep pressing the buttons and you can just hear their little cute voices in the background. And you're like, somebody take the phone from the kid. I will go back to those days with not a single complaint if I could trade the swatting calls for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like they're dangerous, but they're also just really annoying. It's like, come on, man. Whoever's
Yeah.
doing this, please just stop. It's not
Where,
funny.
what color is the sky in your world where this is
Y-
okay?
Yeah. But yeah, so what's being done about them? As you said, it's a crime, and it's kind of hard to track, but it is, there's misdemeanors and felonies involved, and if people are caught, they're prosecuted, but really it's a hard crime to catch the person because they may
Yeah.
not be in the same jurisdiction, they may not even be on the same continent as they're doing that. So it's it's a challenge for sure.
You know what? This reminds me of, like, Law and Order. When you're watching the episode and it's going right along and you get to the end and the prosecutor loses the case
Mm-hmm.
and the show's over. You're like, wait a minute. These are the good guys. They're supposed to win. Wait, they don't win every case? How is this relevant at all? This feels like a Law and Order episode where we will not win
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because we don't know where these heathens are
Yeah. I mean, and
and we may not be able to find them.
yeah, ultimately, it's hard to track somebody down for that, and requires requires a lot of resources that may not be available. So, um, it's
It
rough.
irks me.
Yeah.
It
If
irks me.
if you work in a 911 center, you may get one of these calls at some point in your career. They're not uncommon. Um, you know,
Anymore.
yeah, just do your best with the call. Treat it
Sure.
as real as you can,
Absolutely.
and notate it down and send it as your policies dictate. But um, you know, you can't not believe somebody just because you have the intuition going. But
Absolutely.
uh,
Well
c-
said.
yeah, well,
Do the best. Process the call the way that you are trained to process a call of that kind.
mhm,
Don't deviate from your SOPs. Don't deviate from your training. Remember your training. Stick to your training. Enter the call and let the people that have more experience with determining whether or not this is a legit call or not, let them handle it. You remember the mission, which is treat it as if that person depends on everything that you enter, listening closely, paying attention, picking up on cues. Enter what you hear, enter what you've been told, and just get it to the queue. That's all you can really do.
yeah. And if you're like online, uh, watching somebody do swatting calls, don't give them a like or a thumbs up. Please don't support these people.
I, I,
But do give us a like and a thumbs up, because we're your favorite podcast.
yes,
Uh,
we are.
but I think that's all the time we have for this week. We appreciate you listening. If you've ever had a swatting call that you took, please, we'd love to hear about it. So shoot us an email to lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. From all of us
Drop
at
it in the comments.
Yes, or leave it in the comments. Thank you, Erica. From all of us at Lifeline 911, I'm Gary,
I'm Erica.
and we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911. If you have any questions about today's topic or topics you'd like us to cover in the future, please reach out to us at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. This has been a production of Lifeline 911 Podcast, copyright 2025. From all of us at Lifeline, stay safe out there. And until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.